Welcome to the Daily Insider here on Vegas Insider. I am Kevin Rogers. We got set for a pretty fun show today. A lot of NFL draft talk, and looking forward to our guest, who I'm going to keep you in the dark for just a minute or so because we'll introduce him in just a second. But looking forward to a lot of NFL draft talk. It's coming up next Thursday already in Las Vegas. So getting set for that, and let's just do it. So we'll get to NBA playoffs, some of that in a little bit. But Stephanie Otey, who did a fantastic job filling in last week for me here on the show.
It was fun. It was so much
fun. She is back. She is ready, and she's excited because, Stephanie, I'm going to just hand it off to you. And
I'm just ready for football. For football again. I know the XFL, that's been in the works, USFL, all of that. But we have the NFL draft coming up. I always get excited about this. It's also a fun thing to bet on. So to break down some of the odds with us, we're going to have a good friend of mine back from Ohio State, an 18th overall pick in the 2006 NFL draft. It is, of course,
you nailed it.
Bobby Carpenter from Outkick, contributor, also co-host of The Morning Juice. Bobby, thank you so much for joining us.
Stephanie, Kevin, thank you for having me on. Excited to talk a little draft talk. This is the time when no matter how bad your team was in 2021, this is the chance for hope springs eternal to get the quarterback, get the tackle, maybe the elite receiver to help turn the fortunes of your franchise.
Yeah, it's a fun time. Quarterback, though, right as we get into this, it hasn't been the year of the quarterback in this draft class. There's a lot of talk about it not being the strongest class. But when you look at each individual, they look like they can be a strong candidate, a strong player in the NFL. But at quarterback, not as many options as there were last season with 5 in the first round. Who do you think will be the first quarterback taken this year?
Well, if you look at some of the odds that you're going to find out there and see where some of these guys are, Malik Willis is coming in as the favorite at -200. You got Kenny Pickett after him at 140. Those have been plus 140. Those two guys have been the two that have been really talked about as the two that could really probably go, maybe inside the top 10, maybe inside the top 20. For my money this year, I'm not positive that there's even going to be 3 quarterbacks taken in the first round. I think Malik Willis will probably be the first off the board, but when it comes to quarterback, it's so specific. And so I start looking around at some of these different potential landing spots. I don't believe anyone's good enough to really warrant the first round. And so if you look at it, maybe the Panthers at 6, they're in need there, but I don't know if they're fully in love with everybody there. I've heard that they like Malik Willis, so he would potentially be an option. Maybe the Falcons at 8, maybe the Seahawks at 9, Texans at 13. The Saints have 2 picks at 16 and 19. And then you get to the Pittsburgh Steelers there and what they could potentially do at 20. And maybe if someone falls, you have the Lions at 32. But this is the first year that I can kind of remember in recent memory where it doesn't seem like there's going to be a quarterback that'll be penciled into the top 5. The Jags seem pretty steady. I don't think the Texans see value there. Jets and Giants, similar situation. And so when you don't have that quarterback, or there's 2 quarterbacks that are going to be for sure top 10 picks, there's a lot of ambiguity in the draft of where guys can potentially go. But from everyone that I've talked to, Malik Willis, -200, I could see him most likely being the first off the board. Maybe a Desmond Ridder sneaks into the first round as well with Kenny Pickett, but I wouldn't bet on all that.
Bobby, your thoughts on Malik Willis as far as what he did at Liberty? Not a big name, not a Big Ten school, not an SEC school. We've seen the likes of Carson Wentz, Trey Lance, guys in the FCS level. Liberty went to FBS in the last few years, and Liberty was one of those programs that could win 8 or 9 games, pretty decent, but never hooked on with a conference. Do you think that maybe it hurts him a bit because he didn't play great competition, or that doesn't matter? You have the talent, you're going to be great.
Well, we've seen guys come from smaller schools. You look at a guy like Tony Romo, you look at Josh Allen. I mean, there's guys who have made it from smaller schools. You don't necessarily have to go to one of the big blue bloods, especially, I think, at the quarterback position. But the competition, that is a question. I was fortunate. I called one of his games earlier this year when Liberty went up to Syracuse. Liberty actually beat Syracuse in 2020. This year in 2021, he played really good. The problem is with him is you look at a lot of these guys who come from the FCS or maybe, more mid-major level in Division I. And the problem is that a lot of those guys have all of the measurables. You looked at Josh Allen when he was coming out with Buffalo and all of a sudden to Buffalo, and now Like, the guy's big, he's athletic, he has a super strong arm. And so he checks all those boxes. It's fairly accurate. And so there was going to need to be a little bit of seasoning. Problem is with Malik Willis, a little bit on the short side. Standing there, and I kind of walked around on the field. I always try to get a good feeling because Tony Romo was about my size. And I'm like, if you're that much shorter than me, you've got to be really special. And he's probably 6'1", 6 foot half inch. And so with that, that's the only question is, when you get to that next level, can you be a Drew Brees? Can you be a Russell Wilson? We've seen Kyler Murray do it for a shorter time span, but that's going to be the big question is, do these teams feel comfortable with his height and the fact he played at a smaller school? Because he has a lot of the other physical attributes, strong arm, he makes pretty good reads, and he can definitely move, but it's that height and maybe a little bit of the competition combined together where there's a little worry.
Did you guys see the video of him that went viral from the combine of him just walking by? He didn't know anyone was watching him, and he just gave money to a man on the street. No one knew that he was being watched or recorded, but that was a viral moment, and it does make me consider how much goes into these picks. I know the character value is a big topic. That's why these teams really like to meet with their guys. Jacksonville, I'm looking, they get the first pick this year. They got their quarterback last year, but this is a characteristic I see in Aiden Hutchinson, who's projected to be the first overall pick. I know the guys that he signed with, they look for leadership. They look for a good locker room guy. Aiden Hutchinson is definitely that. But do you think there's any way that he won't be the first overall pick?
Oh, goodness. It's tough. Jacksonville, I think Aiden Hutchinson's a great culture guy. I don't know if he has the tremendous upside, but I think he's going to be a really good NFL player. And you see him, obviously, the odds-on favorite right now. If he doesn't go number one, he is definitely going to go number two, with the Lions sitting there, the second overall pick. He's from Detroit. He played at Michigan. He's checking every single box for your franchise. But when you're in a team that's in a situation that's usually drafting at the top of the draft, unless, it was an anomaly where your quarterback got hurt or potentially you have a top 5 pick via trade, what you want to bring is not only great players, but guys who, maybe you're giving up a little bit of upside to make sure that you're getting a consistent piece there, and you want a high character dude, because the reality is you're not going to be winning a whole lot probably that first year. And so you have Aiden Hutchinson, you have Trayvon Walker. Those are probably the two guys that you would see going number one overall. And I think it's going to be leaning to Aiden Hutchinson right now. Maybe Jacksonville is enamored with, Trayvon Walker and his skill set. He's sitting there at plus 300 for the number one overall pick because he's incredibly athletic. But kind of the knock is on him, maybe he took some plays off. Why were his sack numbers limited? There wasn't all that terrific production. He did play on a great team, a winning organization, an NFL, system with Kirby Smart, with what he brought over from Nick Saban. But I would have to say there's a reason why there's $600 difference at minus basically 300 to plus 300 from Aiden Hutchinson to Trayvon Walker.
Bobby, what does it say now that, we always talk about skill guys. Everyone wants to see the quarterback taken, the wide receiver taken early. But now we're seeing this trend of defensive ends, offensive tackles. These are the guys that are shaping your team moving forward. You talk about Hutchinson. You look at Trayvon Walker out of Georgia. I mean, these are guys that are very accomplished. You look at Ahmad Gardner, cornerback from Cincinnati that I'm sure you've seen play a lot there in Ohio. And Thibodeau from Oregon. What does that say now that these are the guys that these franchises are chasing to now be the cornerstone of their team?
Well, I think a little bit goes every year. The draft is different depending on, where teams are picking, but then also the quality of guys. And so I have had a couple of scouts and front office people tell me they thought Sauce Gardner was the best player, regardless of position in the draft, with what he was able to do. Athletically, he checks all the boxes. You look, he'd never given up a touchdown during 4 years at Cincinnati. And you talk about playing at mid-majors. Yeah, Cincinnati, they were in the American Conference, but they did also play Georgia and they did also play Alabama in their postseason the last 2 years. And Sauce Gardner got a chance to go up against some really talented players and handled himself accordingly and looked like he belonged. And so with that, I think he checks ultimately all of those boxes. He'll probably get drafted maybe a little higher than people expect, simply because he's a high character guy and he possesses all the measurables, and people love his film. And so as we fall in love with the 40s and all of these different things, ultimately what a lot of coaches and front office execs get back to is put on the film. Sauce Gardner has terrific film. and the fact there's no quarterback that's probably going to go up high, you've got a couple of defensive end pass rushers, then there's really not an elite tackle that you're looking at. You got Evan Neal out of Alabama, and you have Ike Ekwonu out of NC State, and both of these guys are good. But a lot of times, if you look back, think of the drafts, you usually have one or two quarterbacks and an offensive tackle taken in the top 5. This year, there's a good chance you're going to have none of those. And so a guy like Sauce Gardner, most likely going to be the first corner off the board. He's sitting there at minus 400. For a long time, it was supposed to be Derek Stingley. He's kind of fallen back, and taking a year off can do that to you. But I could see Sauce Gardner sneaking into maybe the top 5 or 6 picks.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how that top breaks up. Kevin mentioned Thibodeau. His draft talk has been dropping lately, and I'm hearing the guys that met with him with various teams, scouts, analysts. There's questions behind his love of football, his work ethic. It goes into how much will he give to the team. He's got all the talent in the world, and if he was drafted solely on his capability, that might be a different story. But do you think that could influence where he falls in the draft?
Well, for a long time, he was, just assumed to be the number 1 overall pick. There wasn't going to be an elite quarterback in this draft. And so people thought, okay, Kayvon Thibodeau checks all the boxes. You look at him physically, I mean, the guy is a monster. He has long arms. He's tall. He's strong. He moves really well. No real character issues. But part of the problem is that you ultimately need production as well. And so you look at some of the stuff that he did at Oregon, he played well, but he doesn't necessarily have a lot of flash plays, and it looked like he may have taken some plays off. And so if you're trying to start a team and you're, I'm talking up at the top, the Jags, the Lions, the Texans, heck, even the Jets and the Giants, all 5 of those organizations are really trying to turn a cruise ship. You need the right type of people on the team. They're going to go out there each and every day. They're going to work hard despite the fact that, maybe you're sitting there at, 2-10, that you're still trying to turn this thing and you're buying into what the coach is selling. And I don't know if that's a certainty for Kayvon Thibodeau. And that's why you look at Aiden Hutchinson, maybe a Trayvon Walker, as those 2 guys have both creeped ahead of him in their evaluations, because it ultimately comes back down to not just talent, but that character piece.
What about, Bobby, a couple of your Ohio State guys, your receivers, Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave? What kind of impact do you think they could make on the NFL level? Again, depending on where they go, every team is different, but what kind of impact do you think those guys can make coming up?
I think all these receivers are pretty polished in this draft. And you look at, Garrett Wilson's number 1, the favorite on the board is sitting there at plus 25, but right behind him is Drake London. And that's, I could see those guys obviously neck and neck. The real value play, I think, in this draft, assuming that he can get healthy, and you may not have him for this full year, is a guy who was at Ohio State for a couple of seasons before going to Alabama, and that's Jamison Williams. He's at plus 450 to be the number 1 overall receiver. And with that, I think there's a tremendous upside, risk of injury, will he recover? But also knowing if you draft him, there's a chance that he might not be ready to contribute all year. So Garrett Wilson, I think, will be the first receiver off the board. He checks all the boxes. He ran faster at the combine than I think a lot of people anticipated, including me. He's a great contested ball catcher. He has great route running ability. He does a great job with the ball in his hand afterwards. The only real question was his speed, and he went out there and ran sub 4.4. And when you do that, okay, now you're checking everything. The one knock, well, he's sitting there about 6'1", and he's not the biggest frame guy in the world. But very few people ultimately are like the guy who I played with in Calvin Johnson. Like, you're just not finding a lot of those dudes. So you take what you can get. And then, the fifth best odds going off the board first, which I don't think would happen, is Chris Olave. But I see him probably existing down around the 20s and being alive down there, and maybe get snatched up potentially by Green Bay. Maybe I think they have the 22nd pick. That would make sense if he's still around there at that point in time. And you can look at Philadelphia, maybe also looking to add receiver. The one thing with these receivers is you look at this, guys, you look at the contracts that have been doled out and the big money dollars that have been given out, to the guys like Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams. I mean, when you're getting contracts that big, teams ultimately in the draft look then to start drafting those guys higher so they can have a salary-controlled, productive player at that position for the next 5 years. That's why quarterbacks usually get pushed up. And now if you look at the franchise tags, the next highest paid position is the wide receiver position. And so it wouldn't shock me if you have 5, possibly 6, or even 7 of these guys going in the first round.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is how many receivers do you think will end on the first day? But looking at that comparison from Garrett to Wilson, a lot of members of the Buckeye Beat would make those comparisons. They have different levels of play, but they're very similar. And even before their pro days and their combine numbers, Ryan Day was asked who he thought would run the faster 40. He said it'd be hard, but he said maybe Chris. Do you have any idea who ran the faster time? I mean, it's pretty close.
It was neck and neck. Chris had an original time that was really fast, and then they went back and, recalculated. I think they gave it to Garrett, and, Chris was right around there to, high 4.3s, low 4.4. It's interesting, though. I think Garrett accelerates a little bit better, but Chris, as far as smooth route running, call them top of the route tree routes, your posts, your takeoff, your fades, and your corners, like he is so smooth and he has such great top end speed and is a great tracker of the football that he probably has a little bit better top end than Garrett, where Garrett probably has a little bit more acceleration.
Yeah, that time was Wilson did win. It was 4.38. Olave was 4.39. Smooth is the name of the game for Olave. When I was on the Football Fever in Columbus, we wouldn't say Chris Olave. We'd go Olave. That's how we would pronounce it, because he was always just so smooth. I think Wilson's more explosive, but the odds between them to be the first receiver taken, obviously it looks like it's going to be Wilson, but Chris Olave is a steep jump down at 20-1. Do you think that those odds are a little too long for him?
No, I don't think that people probably view him. I haven't heard any team that loves him as their number one guy. The people that I've heard, obviously Garrett Wilson, Drake London out of USC, and Jameson Williams. The things that scared people off about Jameson now is ultimately those injuries. And if those are going to come back to bite him, you got Traylon Burks in there, but he's sitting back there at plus 1,100, just like Olave. And so it's going to be one of those three. If you want to take a flyer, I think there's good value at Jameson Williams. It wouldn't surprise me if there's a team that's just been sitting there saying, hey, you know what? We know we might not have him for the first 6 weeks. He might start on the PUP. We can bring him off the pub, but we think we're getting the most athletically gifted receiver in this draft, which I would say hands down is Jameson Williams. He checks all the boxes. Watching this guy move, for 2 years in Columbus, phenomenal athlete. He has a tendency to have some drops from time to time, but the year he put together at Alabama was really impressive. So I would say he might be your value pick at plus 450. Wilson and London sitting there at, whatever it is, plus 125, plus 130. I mean, they're going to be neck and neck. So if you want a little bit of value, someone that, they could fall in love with and maybe take him inside the top 10, I would look for Williams.
Bobby, you were drafted in 2006. You were one of 5 Buckeyes to go in the first round. You remember the other 4, right?
I can name them off for you in the order: AJ Hawk, Dante Whitner, myself, Nick Mangold, and then Santonio Holmes, if I'm not mistaken.
You flipped the last 2, but that's fine. I'll give you credit on that one. You named them all. I didn't ask you in order, but that's fine. But here's the question, though. How much have you seen this coverage change? What did you have to deal with in 2006 and the guys that you were with, as opposed to today, where it was an event then? This is like a mega event now. We see it traveling different cities. It's in Vegas this year. How was it for you back then, that whole draft process and you leading up to getting drafted by the Cowboys?
So what's interesting about that is I believe my draft was the longest first-round draft ever. I was the 18th pick, and I was taking it like 3:30. So they started it at noon on Saturday. So think of going that entire time. We're halfway through the first round, and it's 3:30. That was when they did 1, 2, and 3 all together. And so because of that, that's when they started looking like, hey,
you're on the clock.
Yeah, if you make a trade, you really need the full 15 minutes again. Shouldn't you know who you're going to go up? So they started tinkering with it. And then I think that ultimately led to what is a great event now, the Thursday night first round, because you get some of those trades then Friday morning and late Thursday night, second 2 on Friday, and then obviously the rest on Saturday. But we didn't have social media. There wasn't the degree of guest pickers. I mean, you'd bounce around and do some radio interviews in different markets where they thought you might go. But it is a much, much different paradigm for these guys now. And, they used to only take 4 or 5 guys possibly to the green room. And then people really didn't like it because, you'd be sitting there all day and there's a chance, you wouldn't get drafted, or get drafted a lot later, and they'd have a camera on you like Aaron Rodgers for 5 hours. So it is really shifted. I think they do a much better job of it. They continue to kind of hone that in. I think a lot of it kind of maybe crescendoed when Roger Goodell's sitting there on his couch doing the fireside chats, like Roosevelt eating some M&Ms. And so they found a way to even get it done there. But, I'm excited for this to be in Vegas, the fountains, everything that's going on. Like the draft now, second to the Super Bowl, is probably the biggest event in the NFL calendar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and especially after the past couple of years where players had to receive the big notification that they're drafted from home, so get that big celebration. Vegas finally gets their draft back. But looking at your draft day, would you have decided to stay at home? Because Trevor Lawrence did that. We saw Joe Burrow did that. Would you have stayed home if you had the choice?
So I talked to AJ Hawk, was the 5th pick taken, and he got invited to go and he turned it down. I fortunately didn't get invited. I would have turned it down either way. They do a better job now, but your family, they didn't pay for your family to fly in. They put you at a card table in a room and give you water and like chips and pretzels. Like this is supposed to be the greatest day of your amateur life. Now it's the start of a lot of work, but it's also the culmination of really little league, junior high school, college football. And so I looked at it like, it was like, this isn't just my day. Like this is an opportunity for me. Thanking my parents, like my grandparents, our neighbors, my youth coaches, my friends, guys who I played with, I trained with going up, some of my teammates who are still in college. And so the way we looked at it, this is the way a lot of guys I know. I mean, I don't want to go sit at a card table in some room and drink, waters and eat some chips. Like, hey man, we're going to get a keg of beer, get some beers, get some drinks. We're going to crack that thing at noon, and we're going to sit here and enjoy the day. And it was almost kind of like a glorified graduation party. It was a beautiful day. And I honestly, I don't know if there's a dollar amount that you could pay me to want to go somewhere and sit and not be able to have that experience, not just with, 4 to 6 family members, but with, 150 people who were such a big part in developing, what I was able to do.
It's kind of like when reality shows, people decide to put their wedding on TV, something like that, where it's not small, it's not intimate, it's like a show. But now when you do it from home, we see like CD Lamb snatch the phone from his girlfriend or whatever when she was trying to look at the phone. So there's also the caveat of what's happening at your home you need to pay attention to. But one thing I wanted to ask you about that you spoke on Outkick yesterday was about Nick Saban's comments on NIL and how it is able to change the game. Even the threat of SEC becoming a super conference where Big Teners like us, sorry, Kevin, we like the tradition of college football. We like the conferences and the rivalries that we have, especially in the Big Ten, Pac-12, all that. Like they have the academics and the athletics. But I know that could be a threat. But the question was raised a few weeks ago about Justin Fields and his position in Chicago. And if he had any say, could there be a transfer portal type option for NFL players if they're just stuck to a program, to a franchise that's not doing anything for them, some kind of way for them to take control of their future and ask to move elsewhere. I know you can ask for trades and all that, but any type of scenario when you get drafted to make an option for you to go elsewhere if the program's not doing anything for you.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, Steph, that you bring up, because guys get locked in. We've seen franchises just kind of spin their wheels for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. And the NFL is designed with reverse order drafting, revenue sharing, salary caps, all of these different mechanisms they have to create parity. So teams aren't down for 15, 20 years like the Cleveland Browns, or they're not struggling like the Jags, or the Bears can't develop a quarterback. Like there shouldn't be those reasons. If you hire a competent front office, if you hire competent coaches, all of those things should be taken care of. And ideally, what you ultimately have is the Cincinnati situation where, hey, they had Andy Dalton for a number of years, AJ Green, they had some success. Those guys got older, they moved on, they were down for a little bit. They drafted well, hit on some receivers. All of a sudden you get Joe Burrow, you draft Jamar Chase, and the next thing you know, you're playing in the Super Bowl. Why is that important? Because it ultimately gives fans hope that their team can turn it around and go from worst to first in a couple of seasons. And so what you're seeing in Chicago with Justin Fields, like it's tough because they haven't developed a quarterback there really, really ever. And you don't want him to suffer the same fate. And so there's times where players may want an out, but you sign a contract, you're getting compensated really well. Your only hope is that your organization and your franchise does enough to surround you with good coaches, surround you with good talent. And then not only that, gives you the resources for players to want to come and be able to have success there with you, because that's the name of the game. And there's no reason why the Chicago Bears, a storied franchise like that, like what they are, with, the whole city behind them and that loves them, that they haven't been able to get this done. So hopefully this next iteration will do it, because you can't have players just decide, hey, I want to pick up, unless all of a sudden Justin Fields like, hey, you know what? I'll do 1-year deals at a time, like some guys do in the NBA. But, in doing that, football is a different game. There's a risk of injury. And so you always have to balance your freedom with financial security.
Yeah, and we're seeing more and more players take control and have more say in their programs, but not everyone's Tom Brady and can just decide if they would like to have someone be no longer their head coach anymore. But we saw Aaron Rodgers make a plea and hold out on camp last year, and he did get more of a say. Are you seeing this become more of a thing? Although these are very profound quarterbacks that have proven their worth, but right out of the gate at the draft, do you think that down the line there could be more of a say from the players' end?
I think there's more of a say now than ever before. You saw what happened with Deshaun Watson, him getting traded and ultimately getting, an NBA Supermax style deal, 5 years, 230 guaranteed. Tom Brady had a full 6 Super Bowls under his belt before he kind of forced his way out of there and ultimately went down to Tampa. The interesting case study right now is going to be Kyler Murray. Because Kyler Murray's been good. He's been hurt a little bit. Their team was nicked up at the end of last season. He was on pace to have a really good year. But he's been to 2 Pro Bowls, which Pro Bowls for a quarterback are kind of empty awards. Guys opt out. You can be the 6th best quarterback in your conference and ultimately get in. But they haven't really had any playoff success. And now he's saying, hey, unless you give me this massive extension, I don't really want to be there. And Arizona's sitting there looking at this saying, hey, you've been good, but you haven't been great. You're not to Aaron Rodgers status yet. You're not to Russell Wilson. You're not to Tom Brady. You haven't won a Super Bowl to be able to dictate it. So you can't put the cart in front of the horse for some of these guys. If you want to have that organizational sway and be able to go in and beat your chest and say, these are positions we need to draft, this is how I want our team to run, and I want to have a say in this, you've had to do it on the field. And you've usually had to do it for a number of years to where you have the respect and understanding that the fan base is maybe more tied to you than they ultimately are to the team at that point. And so we'll see what happens with Kyler Murray in this situation where he said he is not playing without an extension this year. He's trying to flex big. And if he wants to sit out, I'm curious to see if the Cardinals are willing to call his bluff.
Bobby, before we let you go, I'm curious about this. Your rookie year, 2006, you're playing for Bill Parcells. Drew Bledsoe was the quarterback of the Cowboys first half of the season. Then they make the switch to Tony Romo. Romo gets you guys the playoffs. We know what Romo becomes. At that moment, that halfway through the season, when Romo became the quarterback, Eastern Illinois, he came for a mid-round pick. Were you uncertain? What were your thoughts saying, what are we doing with this season? We're going to have this guy be the quarterback. What's going to happen? What did you think when that happened? And then eventually what happened years later when he became the face of the franchise?
So it's really interesting. I grew up a Patriot. I grew up a Giants fan and then also a Patriots fan because of Bill Parcells coaching there. So I love Drew Bledsoe. I had a poster on my wall that he ultimately signed for me that first year. And so to watch him get benched, like it was tough. It was tough, but he wasn't really moving all that well, and we needed a quarterback that could buy time in the pocket and be able to avoid the rush. And so people knew what Tony could do on the team, and that's one thing when you hear guys when they comment on people, very rarely will they say something negative about their backup quarterback or a backup. But if they're gushing on them, it's because they know there's something there. And a lot of people knew what Tony was about. Now, we didn't necessarily know that he would be able to have that much success that quickly, lead us to the playoffs, and then ultimately go on for a decade to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But you had an idea that he could be pretty darn good. And it was just going to be how much more would he improve. And so it was unbelievable. Like I was friends with Tony when he was our third team guy behind Drew Henson in training camp. And you'd watch him play. You're like, man, like NFL is really good. If this guy's a third teamer, I want to see what other rosters look like. And, all of a sudden, you be patient, you get your opportunity, and then kind of the rest was history.
Bobby Carpenter, We appreciate it very much. You can find him mornings in Columbus at 97.1 The Fan, right? And that's the flagship of the Buckeyes. And also, Bobby, list everywhere else that we can find you.
See me on Outkick as well, contributor there. I'm all over XM, so I got to do some of that later today as well.
All right, Bobby, we appreciate it. I know Stephanie's going to say go Buckeyes, so I'll interrupt her with that one. Bobby, thanks so much. We'll talk to you again soon, okay?
My pleasure, Kevin. Thanks, Steph.
All right. Yeah. There is Bobby Carpenter. And I just had to squeeze in. I was curious about that because I had to look back at Bobby. And
I didn't know he played with Romo. That's so interesting because I was there. I was at the Cowboys kickoff luncheon right after Romo got hurt. There's a rookie named Dak Prescott. What to make of him? I talked to Jason Garrett. It was actually one of my first interviews ever. And I go right in, and it was a very much a media interview. They didn't give me, the ins and outs. It was a PR type of response, but they really did have this belief in Dak, and I think it's kind of panning out similar to Tony Romo. So much respect for both of them, but let's win some playoff games. Come on.
Because I remember, because I didn't have the timeline right with him, or I wasn't sure. When I looked up Bobby and his career, when he was drafted in 2006 by the Cowboys, I remember, I'll give you this one, Stephanie. I was at a Florida Panthers hockey game, and we were in like a box or something, and the Cowboys, I think, were playing the Giants maybe, and Tony Romo was playing. That was like the first time he was playing. And for whatever reason, I remember that was his rookie year. And I didn't know if that was 2006. So when I look back, I'm like, oh, that was the same year that Bobby was drafted by the Cowboys. I'm like, oh, that was the same team. And I look back at it, that Bledsoe started the season. That was the first year T.O. was in Dallas. We didn't ask him about that, about that whole circus with T.O. being there. But then Tony came in. And unfortunately, that was also the year, and I didn't want to get into this with Bobby, the drop snap on the field goal against the Seahawks. When he had the easy field goal, Tony was the holder, and the ball slipped through his hands. He went to go pick it up. He got tackled where the Cowboys maybe could have gone far in that postseason. But that was kind of Tony Romo's first blunder moment that always stuck with him. So I didn't want to get into that with Bobby. But Tony did a great job. And now you look at him, he's one of the highest paid analysts out there on CBS. So he did well for himself. I'll
tell you a fun fact about Tony Romo. I am not blood related to him, but like a distant, like if I was in Dallas, obviously, when I was covering Legends and Mavs. And if I didn't go home for Thanksgiving, which I always have to do because it's the Ohio State Michigan game. So I have to go back for the rivalry game. If I stayed in Dallas, I would have gone to the Romos for Thanksgiving because my uncle's now ex-wife, so she's not really my aunt anymore, but I still call her my aunt, married Romo's uncle. So she designed his, she's an interior designer, designed his house. So yeah, weird how small the world gets, but that's my distant relative to Romo.
Well, I look back at the team that he was on. I mean, 5 first-round picks, the 2005 Ohio State team. And obviously, Santonio Holmes had a great career. He had the big touchdown catch against the Cardinals in the Super Bowl. Nick Mangold was with the Jets forever. A.J. Hawk and Dante Whitner were very good players. But I look back at that. I didn't really remember that 05 Ohio State team as far as what they did. They ended up winning the Fiesta Bowl against Notre Dame. They lost to Penn State in the regular season. Penn State won the Big Ten championship. I mean, at the time, obviously before the Big Ten title game, they just won the tiebreaker. Penn State played Florida State in the Orange Bowl. That was the triple overtime win by Penn State over FSU. So I was at that game, actually. Oh, wow. I would have seen Ohio State and FSU if Ohio State would have beaten Penn State.
Yeah, see, I feel like Penn State, as of late, it's like since around that time, a little bit after, Penn State became more of a threat than Michigan.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you get to Happy Valley. Unfortunately, I've never gotten to go to Happy Valley because of COVID in my years of covering them. And usually I got them at home, which was always a huge game. We've had 3 different national broadcasts on the field of Ohio Stadium against Penn State before. But I think that's evolved into as big of a rivalry as Michigan. Not as big as Michigan. Michigan, we have to always get the respect too, but Penn State is a threat as of late.
So I'm glad you were able to get Bobby on, and
General. I didn't even call
yeah.
him that, but that's like his nickname, the General, trying to save the day with the Big Ten canceling the season in 2020. He stepped up and made a big plea. Him and Justin Fields were our soldiers trying to bring back the Big Ten.
What did he do?
He was just very vocal. He goes on Pat McAfee's show a lot. Justin Fields had the signatures, the petition, yeah.
Okay.
And he got like over 500,000 signatures. But Bobby was just like soldiering on, and I think that's when he like blew up on Twitter and stuff. Like really with his analysis and stuff like that, because he was just giving a lot of good insight with regards to the Big Ten. But that was a hot mess of a season that was not a season for a bit, and then it was. So
well, I remember that the Big Ten came out with their schedule, and then like 3 days later they nixed it. And then what happened was, I think when the SEC is like, we're gonna play, the Big Ten's like, maybe we should do this too. If the SEC is doing it, maybe we should do it too. And then the Big Ten, the 6
I love how the Pac-12 and the ACC were like, we'll just do whatever the Big Ten does. Like, and the SECs in the world, they're like, nope, absolutely not. We're not canceling the season. But we had a brand new commissioner, Kevin Warren, who I don't think he understood what canceling the Big Ten football season would equate to. He has a son playing in the SEC, meanwhile saying, nope, we're not going to play Big Ten. All the parents were flooding to Chicago. They were protesting. I covered a protest outside of Columbus, and they got their season back. But the protocols really screwed them over. So whenever anyone wants to come at me, Ohio State, Alabama, I'm like, don't even reference that national championship, because it's not a real game. You're playing our bare bones. Our D-line was completely wiped out because contract tracing, which was not a thing in the SEC. Field team in practice, he got like barely any reps left after that targeting call in the Sugar Bowl. But it was a crazy season. It was a crazy.
Do you remember they were supposed to play in the spring? Remember that rumor? They were going to play in the spring for a little bit, and they said, okay, we're going to play in the fall. Like,
no conference that ended up doing that. They just kept wanting to push it back. Yeah. And honestly, the Big Ten was really the decision maker of that. Like, I don't think these other conferences would have played if it weren't for the Big Ten. And power to the universities, like Gene Smith, athletic director at Ohio State, Ryan Day, our president as well. So many programs were stepping up, but Michigan did not. They did not really want to play because they knew that they couldn't compete that well. And what did they do? They said,
horrible season.
They forfeited the game against Ohio State. They didn't even come. So I called it in August. I said, I'm hearing these protocols and they're going to say they have too many COVID cases and they can't play Ohio State. And that's exactly what happened. But Nebraska, it was so funny because Ohio State fans and Nebraska fans were like shaking hands, and the stepbrothers quote, did we just become best friends? Yup. Because we were like fighting for it. Scott Frost is like, we are leaving the Big Ten if they don't have a season. And then they ended up being a flop. Ohio State actually had a reason to fight for it. They went to the national championship. But
didn't Nebraska say, we're just going to schedule our own guy? Like, we're just going to get our own. Whoever wants to play us, they're going to play us. We're just got to get games in. They didn't care. I
kind of wish that happened, but Ohio State, they are very true to their roots. They said that they would never leave the Big Ten. That really stirred up a lot of conversations. Should we schedule games that we can? And they got it to happen. They really did. So that was also a season. That was such a profound season. I'm so excited that I got to be a field reporter during that time because it was historical. It was very unique in the way we covered those games and how media transformed. Look at us. We're broadcasting from different locations.
Yeah.
It changed the way we consume our content. And it was a crazy year to be a part of, especially in the Big Ten.
Yeah, it was. And people won't forget that year, but I'm happy we've moved past it, that we're back to somewhat of normalcy. So that's good. But before we escape here, any thoughts with the NBA? We have 3 games tonight. Heat Hawks in Miami. Heat laying 7.5. Grizzlies and the Timberwolves. See if Memphis bounces back, and the Suns and the Pelicans. We have 2 1-8s going in a 2-7. So it's not exactly the best matchups. But I think Memphis, though, even though that line dropped a little bit, I gotta think they come back and they win this one out of the three. That's the one I like the most.
Yeah, I woke up to a pleasant surprise this morning with the Mavs covering, not only covering but winning. I almost took them outright, and I wish I did, but I got a little nervous, so I pulled back and just took them to cover. But I'm excited for that series. I am continuing to ride the Sixers wave. That line has dropped a lot since the first game. It's now 1.5. I think that I would like to take that pick, and then I love the Bucks. 9.5 though seems a little steep.
Yeah, I mean, look, Chicago didn't shoot the ball well, and the Bucks kind of struggled offensively too in that game one. And DeMar DeRozan says he's not going to shoot as poorly in game two. Okay, well, we don't know that, so you can't say that. But yeah, I mean, I look at it like this: Chicago had a great opportunity to steal game one. They didn't. Now you wonder if they get rolled in game two. That's kind of my concern with them.
Do you think it's going to be a sweep for Milwaukee?
They're 5-0 against them this year. You know, they haven't even lost them yet this year. So,
and you know the old saying, it's so hard to play a team more than once or beat them again.
Yeah.
They're bound to lose at some point. And honestly, this early in the playoffs, maybe give your big guys some rest, you know, ease up. Don't give them a win, but like,
nah, you gotta, if they're healthy, I think you gotta keep them going.
Well, also, you're fighting for a sweep where you get extra days of rest too. So.
Exactly, and and the Bucks and Bulls played on Sunday, so you're getting 2 days of rest anyway, and you're not even traveling.
Yeah, they're like an hour apart. Really.
Yeah, and it's not that far.
Okay, so are you taking them Bucks to cover?
I'm still investigating.
We made the case.
I made the case, but I need to.
Double digits is hard to take, but the Mavs just did it last night, and everyone thought they did that without Luka. You know.
Yeah, that was a bag. I mean, the Jazz were up, and the Mavs came back. That Dallas team still isn't that great, anyway. I mean, it just shows you how good Luka is. That Dallas team really struggles without him. You know, other teams can maybe try to get by without their best player, but Dallas really is not good without Luka.
Yeah. So what are you looking at in the West? You said you were taking Grizzlies?
I like the Suns. I don't have a lot of faith in New Orleans, and that's basically almost like if the Suns are going to cover. Like, can I see Minnesota winning tonight? Sure, I could. I can't see New Orleans beating Phoenix. I could see Minnesota winning, but I think Memphis can pull away and cover that. I don't think Memphis wins by 4 or 5. I think that either Minnesota wins outright or Memphis covers this. I don't think Memphis wins. I don't think Memphis wins and Minnesota covers, puts you that way. I don't think that's either the Timberwolves win outright or Memphis takes care of business and evens the series at 1.
Okay, Boston and Brooklyn. That's a fun series. Back in Brooklyn. Still got Boston game
back
in Boston. I mean, yeah. I don't think Kyrie is gonna let him lose there. You know, I mean, he got heated, and I don't think he won't let it happen. I feel like, and he was such a big contributor in the last game at the Garden. I don't know. I literally don't think he'll let it in his power let that game slip away from him.
I mean, look, they were that close to being up 1-0, stealing the first game in Boston. And then if you lose game 2, you lose game 2. But now the pressure's on them to win game 2 coming up tomorrow. And I know Durant didn't have a great shooting game. And last time they played, Jason Tatum had like 51 points. So this time around, he got limited a bit. And look, Brooklyn still has the 2 best players on the floor. Tatum is excellent, but Durant and Kyrie are still ahead of Jason Tatum right now. But Tatum is still an all-star. Brooklyn's going to be kicking themselves. Like, they really had this one in the bag, and they blew it.
Which duo out east do you like better, Embiid and Harden or KD and Kyrie?
I still like KD and Kyrie.
What?
I mean, I like them both. Embiid is pretty automatic. I feel like Harden at times just can throw up a 4 of 19, you know, that Harden's been saved by Tyrese Maxey in this series because he's played so well. I just know Kyrie or Durant can go off and Durant's not going to have a 9-point game. You know, that's kind of the way I look at it. Out of the 4, Harden, I don't want to say is the weak link, but Harden can have terrible games and he just looks lazy out there where Kyrie can still light it up.
That is true. Yeah,
But the problem is you need more help around them, though. It can't just be Durant and Kyrie doing everything.
Yeah, that's why everyone. Were you one of the ones who was trying to take Toronto to upset?
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
I did take Toronto last night. I admit that. I did take Toronto last night. I took Philly in game 1. I thought maybe they'd hang. I thought it was a little bit I thought everyone would be on Philly. They were, and Philly blew them out, so I was wrong on that. But I never thought that the Raptors were just going to beat them in 5. No, I didn't think that.
I think the tone has shifted in the confidence of Toronto, but everyone thought that'd be a trap series. You know, if there was going to be an early surprise upset, that would be it. And I was like, what? Right. Come on now. What? So who do you think could be the surprise upset in the playoffs right now? I think maybe the Mavs. Surprise.
Not if Luka doesn't play. No, I have no confidence. If Luka comes back, if he comes back moving forward, yes, that changes things. All of a sudden now they're a threat. But
I think Luka, after game 3, I think about it, like if they win if they win the third, I bet he'll. I don't know. Yeah, I think if he wins the third game, or sorry, if they lose the third game, he's going to be like, all right, I'm going in no matter what. You know?
I mean, you hope so. I mean, it's a hard one because you always say, not you personally, but you say like a thigh injury. Okay, are you going to be all right? You should be all right. Toughen up. But he could play for a minute and something can happen. You know?
I know it's a hard one. Thing. But I mean, when you never want to plan your injury, but this would be the time to do it. Like your team, you are literally the team, and if you're going to go out, you might as well do it at the early run of the postseason so that you have more time to rest, not like during the start of the season, you know?
I think that Luka bought himself, or the Mavericks bought themselves another game because they came back and won last night, where if Luka sits game 3 and you say, okay, if we win, we win. If we lose, all right, we're down 2-1. Hope he comes back for game 4 because you still have 2 more games at home. Steal one in Salt Lake and then win the 2 home games, and you can advance. So I think that Dallas did very well by buying an extra game. If they lost last night, then it's desperation time. They're not desperate right now. Try to see if you could win game 3 on the road without him, and then hope he comes back for game 4.
Here's a fun one. Pelicans, Suns. Chris Paul's back, but talked about it last year in the finals. Do you know what I'm going to bring up?
What?
A certain referee that he has lost 12.
Scott Foster, right? Who he hates.
Scott Foster, yes.
He's like 1-20 with him or something crazy.
He's lost 12 straight playoff games.
Okay.
So Foster made some news in game 1 of the Nuggets Warriors series Saturday when he rejected Denver backup center DeMarcus Cousins with 2 quick technicals. Foster has history with Cousins as well. And he is obviously hated by everyone. Is he going to be reffing the Suns anytime soon?
Well, we only know from day to day. Let me see. Hold on. I can pull this up.
I think he's going to.
Scott Foster's going tonight.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And the line right now is Pelicans plus 9.5. Yep.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I have to say this. I think a lot of this is coincidence. I feel like that Scott Foster is not just targeting Chris Paul.
Right. But either way, I mean, he gets heated. Does it affect their play? I made the same case for Kyrie in Boston. I feel like he's going to get heated, but I think it would be a good thing for Kyrie. For Chris Paul, I feel like it's going to get to him.
Yeah, but that's just one. But here's the difference with this. Kyrie, this is a personal thing with the fans of Boston. This is not just
it's like a whole Boston crowd.
But it's not just the Boston fans saying, oh, we don't like you. It's you played for us. We were that close to the finals. You don't want to be here anymore. That's why we don't like you. Not because we just don't like you simply out of no reason. The reason is you were one of us. You were going to be our savior. And you couldn't get us to the promised land. And you didn't like being here. So we hate you now.
I mean, I don't think Cleveland was that cold to LeBron. When he went to Miami.
Because when LeBron, they knew they needed LeBron back to win him a championship.
Okay,
That's why they accepted with open arms for Miami.
they
That's
were
why they said,
burning
come on
his
back.
no, they were burning his jersey. They were covering up the mural
At the time, yeah, at the time. But then when he came back, they're like, come on back.
He was born in that city. And I see more loyalty out of Giannis in Milwaukee, Damian Lillard in Portland. Like, if those guys left now, do you think that these fan bases would hate him? Because they've given a lot to them. I mean, Giannis won, but Dame has been in Portland. I mean, I feel bad for him, but he's given a lot to Portland, even though not necessarily a playoff win or a
Damian
final.
Lillard has done a lot, considering Portland is, I don't say off the map, but most northwestern team. It's hard to get people excited about that. He put the Blazers on the map, and you know what? Giannis can leave Milwaukee. They can't say a word about him. You win a title somewhere, you can't say a word about it. They could leave.
But I don't think Portland would hate Dame.
No,
he stuck around long enough to be forever loved there, I feel like.
But Cleveland can never hate LeBron because he brought him a championship.
Oh, they do. They do.
He made them relevant. They were irrelevant for so long. He made them relevant. People got upset because he left and he built up a super team.
This same year, the Indians were in the World Series, or the Guardians now were in the World Series. So, you know what? It could have come at a better time. Like now when the Browns were a flop. So could have used it now, LeBron, when we didn't have another team killing it. But as long as they always got the Buckeyes, you know, Ohio's always in good hands. And then you go up north in Ohio and you got good old Burrow with the Bengals. So Cleveland, I always say Cleveland's my favorite city in Ohio, but they need to remodel their basketball team for sure.
Well, one thing I should have asked Bobby, or we didn't get to, was also about Baker Mayfield, what he thought about him. If he can make it, if it's his fault, or if just not a good situation in Cleveland that no one could. I mean, now you have Deshaun Watson there, so see if he wins and get to that with him. But
I would say, and I would relate it to rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins in Washington. A bad program, a bad system. I mean, top to bottom, Washington has problems, but it's really hard for guys to command a program when things are working against them. You know, and then injuries and. I think Baker gave it his all. I really do. And I think that's why he's so beaten down. Because if you were to judge someone off of their effort, he should never be like, the fans were hard on him. They booed him. I think they were harsh on him, and coming from Cleveland, that's so surprising because this fan base is relentless in their loyalty, and they flipped on Baker. So
they did, and it's tough because you know what? There's a lot of quarterbacks that have won just one Super Bowl, and they can keep that. Like Aaron Rodgers has one Super Bowl win, and that came 12 years ago.
But he's consistently in the playoffs. Granted, it doesn't.
Yeah, they've lost. They've lost at home a lot in the playoffs, and that's why it's hard. That Baker just hasn't gotten to the point where he could buy enough equity or whatever you want to call it. Say, okay, we go to the playoffs every year.
Rodgers is a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Oh, yeah, no, there's no disputing the two of them. I'm just saying that Brady is one thing. He's in a class by himself, obviously.
Yeah.
But then there are other guys that, like Russell Wilson.
And
there are other guys that have won a Super Bowl, and like it's hard to win that one, but they've won just the one. They haven't won multiple. I know Baker, it's a tough one. I feel like in the NFL, this isn't the NBA. You should get plugged in and you're great. Like you need to have the players around you. You need to have some help around you.
Yeah, and that's why. Don't you ever notice that the quarterbacks that are the most successful aren't the first quarterback taken? Maybe not the first round. Like
no,
it's because they go to a better program. They go to a better franchise. It's just harder to plug them into a bad team and expect them to turn around. Unless you're Joe Burrow, that's a different story. But because what he did, he had the worst offensive line, sacked 51 times. I mean, that's unheard of. But
he still had Jamar Chase's second year, who was a stand-up receiver.
He had in college. Yeah, he had guys. I mean, so did Baker, though. I mean, Baker had a receiver who actually won the Super Bowl that same exact year, you know? So
Yeah, and then look, Cleveland was expected to win the Super Bowl a few years ago with all the moves they made, and they flopped. So, I mean, they made, the one playoff appearance, and that was it. But
they're going to, I think of all the bad decisions the Browns have made, if Deshaun Watson does not win a Super Bowl for Cleveland, that might be the worst decision they ever make.
Yeah, it's look, they put the morals aside and said, you're going to be our guy, and we're thinking of winning above everything else.
Who has more pressure on them, Deshaun or the Browns?
Oh, definitely the Browns, because Deshaun got his money. The Browns will look terrible.
I mean, okay, but like if you money aside, because it's like you're
still the
name in
Browns.
the league, that whole idea, like in your career as a whole, and I mean, can he redeem himself and all of that? Like,
I still think the pressure's on Cleveland because they are basically saying we're ignoring all these accusations. We don't know what's true and what's not. We know. What do you think? I'm going to ask you. I'm going to put it back on you. What do you think as a female? What do you think about all that stuff with Deshaun Watson? If you were a Browns fan, are you happy or sad that he's?
See, I think asking me as a Browns fan is better than as a girl, because I know girls are crazy and I've seen girls make accusations, but 22 of them is a lot. And so I never jump to judgment when there's an accusation on that, because the accusation alone can ruin his life and maybe hers as well. But that's why I'm always like, look into it. And whenever I look at any NFL team during the draft process, they're asking about character. Like, you don't want a problem, because yes, it has nothing to do with football, but it has everything to do with the locker room. And it's hard to win games when there's chaos going on. And there is an impact. So the two are separate, but they do relate. Like if you have an alcohol addiction or something and you are an employee at a job, it will affect your work. You know what I mean? So if you have issues outside of work happening, it could affect the way you are in the work environment. But I think if there's 22 people that are making accusations, it's something you got to take seriously. And I give the Browns credit because innocent until proven guilty. I believe that. But you don't pay someone that much with the unknown still out there. And even whether it's criminal or civil, I still think the someone capable of doing that or any of the actions that he is accused of, that's something that it's a character trait that most people wouldn't want to be working with, or they would question, is there trust there? Can you rely on them? I think there's a lot of things that they jumped too fast. Like, I would just want to do thorough research. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but it's ongoing. And I think it would have been way too fast to make a jump like that when you have Baker Mayfield, who is really giving you your all. I think the situation they were in when they made the brash decision to do that was questionable. But I'm a firm believer in hearing both sides out. And I don't know if we've heard the last of it yet.
Well, and also, there's no question Deshaun Watson's a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield. Deshaun Watson you want instead of Baker Mayfield, but at the price of Baker doesn't seem like a bad guy. 22 is a lot. And not to say that 22 women could be lying and one person tells the truth. 22 is a lot.
You could, with that money, you could just equip Baker. You know what I mean? Like, you could just load up the offense and you balance it out. And that way all your money's not in one questionable player who is the leader of the offense. So that it was questionable. I don't think it wasn't, I just don't get the rationale. Yes, he's a great quarterback, but to put all your eggs in a questionable basket, that's the thing. Like, if you spread that money out and just loaded up the offense as a complete whole, you're far better suited in any situation. Like, I asked Morton this on Great Day Nation last week. Would you rather have a baller of a quarterback, like the greatest, like Tom Brady, but you are just mediocre or the worst in certain parts of your offense? Would you, or even on your defense too, would you rather have the best quarterback of all of time, or would you rather be a completely well-rounded team?
I think they were just done with Baker. I think that they said, we're going to give you all the money, Deshaun. You're the guy. And And I guarantee you, because they talk behind closed doors, we don't want to hear another thing. If you do one thing, you're done. And hopefully he doesn't.
Here's the thing, though. Was he initiating all this dialogue, or was he reacting to it? Life is all about decisions.
I feel like he initiated it, that he was like seeking them out.
No, I think it was a reaction, because you have your teammates' dads calling you out publicly. Give the ball to my son. You have the fan base booing him if he's not performing well.
Oh, I'm sorry. You meant Baker, not Deshaun.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I thought you were talking about Deshaun. With Baker, it's look, but Beckham did well at the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like things like that, they go hand in hand. But I do think he was trying, and they were kicking him when he was down. Like, if things were going his way, I think that's when a team needs to rally together. Like, how do you overcome the tough games? How do you get back into the winning column? The way that team reacted to your quarterback struggles was not the formula for success. So I think his reaction, you could have been more maybe professional about it, maybe not write an open letter. Like, I think his intent was just to say, I'm so sorry to everyone's frustrations. I'm worn out. Like, I'm doing all that I can. I think that's what his intent was. But I feel like it was him just putting way too much on his shoulders and just needing to take the load off is what it came off like.
I think Cleveland needed to move on.
This
but
is
you know
not
what?
even coming from a Baker Mayfield fan. I'm not like the biggest fan of him.
No, it's fine.
I sympathize for him.
Look, the guy was in all these commercials, and everyone said, "Oh, are you worried more about being, a celebrity as opposed to a quarterback?" And I think they need to move on. But the problem was they got a guy who was under this microscope with all these things that he allegedly did, and nothing really got figured out. And you said, "Okay, we're giving you a bunch of money, and you're just going to lead us, and we're going to forget about everything else. Just hope that you win." So Cleveland doesn't. I mean, like, if they win a Super Bowl, let's just say if Deshaun Watson led them to a Super Bowl this year, is it still all forgotten? It shouldn't be forgotten. It's always going to hang over him. In today's world, just that stuff hangs over you.
I will give him credit. Like, he should not be. I mean, he turned him around from an 0-16 team, and then he won 7 games the following year. I mean, I'm not even a Baker fan, but I sympathize for him so much, because this franchise is very frustrating. Like,
oh, sure it is.
But let me ask you this: who will win a Super Bowl first, Deshaun Watson or Joe Burrow for the state of Ohio?
I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson.
Whoa!
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, Stephanie. I think that Joe Burrow had this opportunity. They lost to the Rams, and I feel like it's proven, past Tom Brady, he's the only guy that can lose and come back. Matt Ryan never came back. Cam Newton never came back. Russell Wilson never came back after they lost that Super Bowl to New England, throwing the interception.
Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not God. I'm not telling you what's going to happen. All I'm doing is saying what I think.
Won the Heisman. Deshaun was just runner-up twice.
I just think that Burrow had the chance. He had a great year, and the other teams in that conference, it's a very competitive conference. I can't see them coming back. The Bengals will be good. I'm not saying they won't be good, but they will not be back in the Super Bowl. You could mark it down. You can mark down the day. They will not be back in the Super Bowl.
I can't believe that.
No. I just don't see it. I think that it's so hard to win in the NFL that you had, and Burrow was great. The Bengals.
But that's why I believe Burrow is going to be the one to do it, because it's so hard to do. I feel like if anyone's going to do it, it's him.
There's just too many. You have Buffalo. Yeah, I mean, the Dolphins have improved. You have, now we'll see what Matt Ryan does with the Colts. You still have Mahomes. You have Justin Herbert with the Chargers. You see what the Raiders can do. Russell Wilson with the Broncos. The Titans are still good.
Wait, so let me rephrase. Do you think Deshaun Watson's a better quarterback
than Joe Burrow?
Yeah. Oh,
yes, the numbers prove it. Yeah, I mean, look, the difference is that Burrow's played a year and a half. Okay?
Burrow had like not even a rookie season. Barely.
He played half a year. He played half a year, and he wasn't.
The only reason he got hurt was because they're throwing him out on offense alone, and it was just sad. But
I didn't realize this. Deshaun is Deshaun Watson's middle name. Deshaun. It's his first name is Derek. I didn't know that. Hold on.
wow, I really want like anyone to.
Oh, no, Stephanie, no. 2018, 4165 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, 9 picks, 11-5 for the Texans. Next year, he was 10-5. He missed a game. 26-12, almost 4,000 yards. 2020, granted they were 4-12, 4,800 yards, 33 touchdowns. I'm taking Deshaun Watson over Burrow. No, it's not an insult to Burrow. I mean, there's going to be
we're tweeting this out. I need to know.
And it's not about, and again, this is not about taking him as a person. It's about simply as a football player.
I'm pretty sure that's clear.
It's him as a football player, not as taking him as a person. This is not the person draft.
You're the guy who's the first thing he says at his Heisman speech is let me give notice to the impoverished community I'm from and raises $500,000 for, and then the guy who's facing 22 civil cases. Look, a different comparison.
Not a good guy. Like, there's no question. Joe Burrow.
I've never met Deshaun Watson. I don't know him personally, but I know Burrow is a high quality character for sure. But same with as quarterback. Come on.
No, I'm taking Deshaun Watson over Burrow.
Okay, so which AFC quarterback? Rank your top 5. I'll do 5. Do
5. Okay, no particular order. Top 5 AFC.
No, I want the order.
You still got to say Mahomes is number 1. You still got to put Mahomes up there. You got to put Josh.
Are you doing it because he won a Super Bowl?
He went to 2 Super Bowls in a row. He's proven. I mean, you got to give Mahomes number 1. Josh Allen's number 2. Then the next 3.
I know ranking him's tough to do. Ranking him's tough.
Yeah.
So now that when I have to think about ranking it, I guess you giving it to Mahomes, that makes sense.
I mean, I don't know if you can go with necessarily. I'm not putting Russell Wilson up there right now. Herbert's got to be in the top 5.
I think he's up there.
He's going to be in the top 5. I'm not putting Derek Carr up there. I'm not putting Matt Ryan up there because I don't know how much he's got left. Tua's not ready yet.
Okay, so you're saying Tua's
Burrow maybe is.
Let's think of all of these guys at peak health.
Peak health. I mean, Watson's got to be. Okay, fine. If we want to go Watson, you got Lamar still. I mean, if Lamar Jackson's healthy, you got Watson, Lamar, Burrow, probably in that top 6 of the AFC. Am I forgetting someone? I think I got everyone. I think I'm not Mac Jones, not Zach Wilson, not
Joe
Tannehill.
Burrow?
Who?
You didn't say Joe Burrow.
I did. I said Burrow's in the top 6.
I thought you were being sarcastic, being like, who am I forgetting? And I'm like, what?
No, Burrow's in the top 6.
Okay, flip side, even harder. NFC.
Say it again?
In the NFC.
Still got to be Brady. Aaron Rodgers. You got to put Dak up there.
I was just about to ask about Dak.
You got to put Dak up there. You got to put Stafford's got to be up there.
Okay.
And then
if he didn't win the Super Bowl, is Stafford up there for you?
But Stafford won a Stafford's still a pretty good quarterback. You know, I mean, we can't say he's not.
But because of this past Super Bowl, that's what got him.
Yes, but I mean, look at the numbers. Stafford's still pretty good.
They were loaded. That team was loaded.
And then who else am I missing? I mean, look, Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Washington, Giants. Those are all not good teams.
Did you put Wentz in there? Maybe because like you have to name them. Maybe.
No, Wentz is towards the bottom. I'm putting Wentz. What did I say? Brady, Rodgers, Dak, Stafford. Garoppolo at times is good. At times he's not good.
You know what? Hey, how about Justin Fields?
Top 5? No.
No, he's not proven yet.
No, the NFC quarterbacks there's a major drop off there.
I know.
I mean, look, you have two legends, but who else am I missing?
Okay, so
I mean, you have Kyler.
Who could upset the two legends? Who could upset Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady? Who could upset them? Who could challenge them in the NFC?
I don't know if I'm ready to say Jalen Hurts. Not him yet. I mean, he runs the ball well, but I don't think about passing. I'm not saying Daniel Jones. You have Kirk Cousins. He's another guy. Goff is shot, I think.
Okay. This is I won't say what the result is, but in Great Day Nation we talked about Morton made a case for the Lions going to the playoffs, and I was not in favor of that. Do you think that they could? I mean, they have the easiest schedule. They have a lot of draft picks and a weak draft class. They have a good path there, but are they capable?
Detroit. You need the quarterback.
You need the
quarterback, and Matt Stafford is better than Jared Goff. You know, I just can't buy it. I can't buy it with the Lions. I don't like the coach. I don't like the quarterback.
Thank you.
No, I'm not there yet. No,
I like the coach. I do like Dan Campbell, but
I mean, yeah, he's got some energy. But you know what? That only goes so far. You need the talent. Give me Belichick with no energy, you know?
Yeah. So okay, I guess it sounds like Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers will be in the Super Bowl this year for the NFC.
You would think, as long as they stay healthy. There's no reason I mean, the Buccaneers lost to the Rams, who won the Super Bowl. And
that was a good game. Oh my gosh, all the playoff games were great.
I mean, look, they got in that big hole. They came back and they tied it, and the Rams won it at the end. But
that was a good game.
But Green Bay blew that game at home to San Francisco in the snow. Green Bay should have never lost that game, and the Packers should have been in the NFC Championship.
Oh, I thought they should have been in this. I thought they were going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So
I had them winning it all, and I was like, "What just happened?" And
they had
Green Bay against the 49ers.
They had a fumble in the second quarter that totally ruined them because they scored a touchdown early, and then San Francisco, I think, turned the ball over, and the Packers then turned the ball over, and they were shot. They were done.
That's why I can't take Rodgers to win again.
No Devontae Adams. We'll see. We'll see who else steps up for them.
I think he's got more rate or more of the hunger than Tom Brady. No one can compete with like how obsessed Tom Brady is with winning, but I think when it comes to this year, Aaron Rodgers has the edge on him there because I think that Brady wanted to come back because he could not end on the he had like an MVP run. Like he did he ended on a really good note. Rodgers would not. If Rodgers retired this year, it would not have ended. His career wouldn't have been on a high note.
I think that Aaron didn't retire because he knew he can get a lot of money from the Packers. He still had something left in the tank, and
Devontae Adams leaving that was surprising to me, very surprising.
Yeah, but look, he goes to the Raiders, plays with his old buddy Derek Carr from Fresno State, and look, you live in Vegas, not Green Bay, so that's a little bit of an advantage too. You're not playing crap weather, half the year. I still think Brady's motivated because he would not have come back. It was easier for Brady to leave than Aaron Rodgers. Like Aaron Rodgers still had a little bit. I mean, Brady still has something left too, but it was easy for Brady to be like, okay, I won my Super Bowl, I'm done, and he's coming back. Where here's the thing: Brady left, and it would have been fine. Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay, he looks like a baby because of everything that's happened. There's been so much back and forth with the front office that he looked like he didn't want to leave on that note, where I think Brady could have easily stepped aside and been like, all right, I'm done. And Tampa Bay would have been fine with it because he got him a Super Bowl.
Who did I don't know how to phrase it. Who was more of a frowned upon off season and the way they handled their business? Was it Rogers or Brady? Like Rogers last year, at least, holding out on going to camp, saying, no, I want more say, or Brady, who demands the say and says, I'm coming back, but AB's out, or Bruce Arians is out.
I think that in this situation, I think that Brady looked worse.
I agree.
He did not have to say he was going to retire. He could have just said, I need some time. And then nobody would have
about how he did that because he was going to go to Miami.
Right. And that whole story blew up, that he was going to become like the Derek Jeter of the Dolphins. And he ended up, the Flores thing kind of messed it up. But I think Brady looked worse because he made he made a big spectacle about something that really.
So that's not the reason why I agree. I would say Rogers makes the skeptical, like he's the one who brings in the kind of commands the like pay attention to like all the chaos, where Brady was trying to discreetly do it. I feel like, you know what I mean? I don't know if the Schefter announcing the retirement and him wanting to be able to do it, I really don't know where that fell. But I do have a conspiracy that Belichick knew what Brady was up to and accidentally told the wrong Brian about the Giants job. And then this whole.
Wait a minute. You think Brady said something to Belichick?
No, I think
Belichick found out.
Brady is, or Belichick's always a step ahead of you. He had to have like the Sean Payton, Brady, Miami plan and brew. And then you have Belichick out in Boston being like, oh, so I'm going to have to go up against them. And he's like, nope, not on my watch. Let me just like drop a little bomb over here in Miami and let Brian Flores know, no, they're hiring Dable. And then Flores unravels everything.
Did you tell Morton that on the Great Day Nation? Did you drop that one to him?
What are the chances you accidentally text the wrong person?
You're 60-something years old. I'm going to say good. Both guys are named Brian.
My dad's not best with his phone, but I've never received like a text he's never had that mistake. He'll call me and be like, hey, Steffi, it's Dad. I'm like, well, no, I have your name shows up.
I just don't, like that whole thing, to that extent.
Think of a wrong, like, okay, usually we hear the funny, like Tommy Freeze Pops, his nickname is that because he accidentally emailed thousands of people about bringing popsicles in to work. It's like usually the wrong text is something like that, like something along those lines. If it's going to be, just what are the chances that you accidentally text the wrong person in this situation?
I don't know. I'll give Belichick the benefit of the doubt. I can't see him as that much of a schemer. That he's like two guys named Brian.
Perfect.
You could be right. You never know.
And you know what? Flores and Dable. Oh, you know what? That actually helps your cause because they're like, if you're like alphabetically.
I think it's an accident. Total accident.
Has he spoken about that? I want to know. I want to hear Flores talk about this Brady conspiracy. I want to know if Belichick said anything about sending the text to the wrong person.
No, I think, because Belichick's so open with everything. They're just going to be like, oh, yeah, my bad.
I did interview some Boston reporters, and one of them told me, I was like, how often do you see Belichick laugh? Like, does he smile often? He goes, yeah, you see it sometimes. But it's a very unique vibe when he's laughing.
People have said that about Belichick, that he's not, he's a normal person, like around, like,
I feel like if you grab a beer with him, it'd be fun. Like, I think he'd be a fun time. Like Urban has dinner with him sometimes, but and I know that they're a fun time, but I can't imagine someone that uptight, even in press conferences. Because usually, actually, Saban would be someone who'd be more interesting to have a beer with because I don't think that his character changes. I think he is that brash on and off the field. Belichick, I think you can turn a switch on and off, like around kids and things like that. I think you can be smiley and soft and things like that. Saban, I think he's just.
I think Saban could be. It's they play it up. I think that they can. I think they just get annoyed. They don't want to do these press conferences. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I think they're just tired of it, So, all right. Well
overdue.
Wrap it up.
We had some conspiracies to hash out.
Good. We got the conspiracies going, and it's all good. So, all right. Well, again, Bobby Carpenter was great. Really appreciated him coming on. So that was a good get by you to go to Buckeye Country to get him. So that was that's a guy I like to talk to again soon or later on down the line. But so great day, Nation. When's the next episode coming out?
Tomorrow.
Good. Looking forward to that. And
you can hear more about the conspiracies there.
I'm telling you got to do that with Morton. See what he says.
Morton's so funny. You have to hear his take on that. Yeah, and also why he has Detroit going to the playoffs. I'm glad you're with me because I was shocked. And Tommy Freeze Pops is the deal breaker there. He's the tiebreaker. And who does he side with, me or Morton? So
yeah, I got to go with no. I have no faith in them at all. No, absolutely not. So Stephanie Otey, you can find her on Twitter at Steph Otey, Otey. And Steph, you'll be back on Thursday. I'll be back on tomorrow solo, and we'll I guess see you again on Thursday. So looking forward to that.
Sounds good. Good luck, bettors.
So that's it. We're all done. For Stephanie Otey, I'm Kevin Rogers. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Vegas Insider. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow at noon Eastern right here on the Daily Insider on Vegas Insider. And as always, best of luck with